also increase. क्योंकि हासिल करने के लिए या तो नाजायज़ तरीके इख्तियार करने पर मजबूर होगा, and in order for him, if he's eating too much, he needs to spend more, and if he needs to spend more, he needs to earn more, and in order to earn more, then Hazrat Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi says that a person will either adopt an unlawful mean in order to gain that money, या लोगों से मांगने की ज़िल्लत इख्तियार करेगा, or on the flip side, he'll be disgraced in that he has to go to people and ask them for money. He has to take a loan. Hazrat Sahal Tustari rahmatullah alayhi का हाल करीब ही गुजर चुका है. It's been mentioned before the situation of Hazrat Sahal Tustari rahmatullah alayhi कि उनके खाने की मीज़ान साल भर की 3.5 आने होती थी. That the amount he used to eat for his entire year were 3.5 आनास. Very mukhtasar, very short. एक हकीम का कॉल है, a physician once said, or a wise person once said, कि मैं अपनी अक्सर ज़रूरतें तर्क कर देने से पूरी करता हूँ, कि मैं अपनी अक्सर ज़रूरतें तर्क कर देने से पूरी करता हूँ. Majority of my needs I fulfill by abandoning them. जिससे मुझे बुरे यकसुई और राहत रहती है. And by doing this I'm able to focus myself and I have a lot of comfort. एक और हकीम का कॉल है, another हकीम said, कि जब मुझे अपनी किसी ज़रूरत के पूरा करने के लिए किसी से कर्ज़ की ज़रूरत होती है, तो whenever for some need I need to take a loan from somebody, तो मैं अपने नफ्स ही से कर्ज़ मांग लेता हूँ. Then I go to my nafs and I ask my nafs for a loan. उसको समझा देता हूँ, I explain to it, उसको फिर किसी वक्त अदा कर दूँगा, that I shall fulfill it later. यानी वो अपने नफ्स को बहलाते हैं. They used to negotiate and explain things about the nafs. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi, he mentioned somewhere, I can't remember exactly where, he says, kabhi, if any time I had an inkling towards having lots of money, lots of businesses or finances, तो मैं अपने आप को समझा देता. I used to explain to myself that all the businesses in Saharanpur belong to me. Yeah, and all these people are working underneath me, and then that stage passes and I move on after that. यानी अपने नफ्स को इस तरह बहलाते थे. So in the same way, sometimes you want to do something, you just explain to your nafs in one way and just push it aside and do what you want to do. Hazrat Ibrahim bin Adham rahmatullah alayh, who was one of the great Sufis and part of the Chishti tariqah, he gave up his kingdom in Balkh. He says, जब किसी चीज़ का नर्ख मालूम करते कि वो बहुत गिरा है, तो अपने दोस्तों से फरमाते. That when he used to find out that something is very expensive, he says to his friends कि उसको छोड़कर अर्ज़ा कर दो. जिस चीज़ का ख़रीदना आदमी छोड़ दे अपनी तरफ से, वो टिक्का शेर हो ही गई अपनी बिला से जितने में जाहे बिके. I've got no idea what that means, so I'm going to carry on. आदमी की हलाकत का बड़ा सबब दुनिया की हिर्स है. He says that the great reason for a person to be destroyed is his hirs, यानी his greediness. और ये हिर्स पेट और शर्मगाह की वजह से पैदा होती है. And when it comes to greediness, it's born and it's created from his stomach and his private parts. और शर्मगाह की कुव्वत भी पेट की कुव्वत से होती है. And the private parts, the shahwat, also is bred from his stomach. और खाना कम खाना, by eating less, उन सब आफतों से अमन है. A person is able to safeguard himself from all these difficulties. हक़ ताला शानहू जिसको भी नसीब फरमा दे. May Allah Almighty give whoever He gives tawfiq to. 10वां फ़ायदा ईसार हमदर्दी और सदक़ात की कसरत का सबब है. The 10th benefit that Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi mentions is that it increases the occasions for a person to be kind, generous to other people and to do sadaqah. कम खाने की वजह से जितना खाना बचेगा, by eating less, the amount of food that a person saves, वो यतामा मसाकिन गुरबा पर सदका होकर क़यामत में उसके लिए साया बनेगा. Then he shall spend it on yatim, the orphans, the poor, the ghuraba, the gharib, and by giving him sadaqah on the day of judgment, there will be a means for him to have a shade or a shadow. कि हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का पाक इरशाद है, पहले गुजर चुका है. Why? Because Nabi Karim सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम has mentioned, as has been mentioned earlier in the kitab, कि आदमी क़यामत के दिन अपने सदका के साये के नीचे होगा. That on the day of judgment, a person shall be in the shade of his sadaqah, the charity that he gives and spends in the sake of Allah Almighty. What he deposits for the hereafter, not what he keeps for the dunya. और जितना ज़्यादा खाएगा, the more he eats, वो पाखाना बनकर कोड़ी पर जमा होता रहेगा. Then the more he eats, it then transforms and morphs into excrement, and then it goes into the kori, yani the mud, the dirt side, or the pile of dirt, etc. और हक ताला शानू के ख़जाने में जो जमा होगा, and that which has been deposited inside the treasury of Allah Almighty, वो हमेशा काम आता रहेगा. It shall come in use forever and ever. और जो पाखाना हो गया वो ज़ाय हो गया. Whatever has become excrement, he's ate, he's used, it's become gone to waste. इसीलिए हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का इरशाद है, because of this नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम said, जो पहले भी गुजर चुका, which has been mentioned earlier inside the किताब, कि आदमी कहता है, आदमी says, the person says, मेरा माल, my wealth. इसके लिए इसके माल में से बजुस 3 चीज़ के कुछ नहीं है. For this person, aside from 3 things, there is nothing in his wealth for him. एक वो जो सदका कर दिया. So what is this? So all the wealth he gains. And we get so much money, if you really think about it. So much money comes. You try to do hisab, where is all my money gone? You're probably scratching your head thinking, where have I spent all my money? It's all gone. And a person says, Mera mal, my wealth. But there's only 3 things actually come in use for him in the day of judgment or in the hereafter. Rather, he lists, Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam lists them. He says, एक वो जो सदका कर दिया है. One is that sadaqah, that which is made sadaqah, given in charity. हमेशा के लिए उसको महफूज कर लिया. Forever and ever he has protected it. दूसरा जो खा लिया, वो जो खा लिया. The second part of his wealth is that which is ate. और खाकर ख़त्म कर दिया. And he's ate it, he's become fat, etc. And then he's खाकर ख़त्म कर, he's finished it. तीसरा वो जो पहनकर पुराना कर दिया. The third is that which he wore or donned and he made old or threadbare. इसके अलावा जो है वो दूसरे का माल है. Whatever is left after that, you know, you collect your wealth, but one day you're going to die, sooner or later, and then what you leave behind, it goes into other people's pocket. इसके अलावा जो है वो दूसरों का माल है. Whatever is left behind is the wealth of other people's. वारिसों का हिस्सा है, it's the portion and the lot of the inheritors. उसका है, उसमें कुछ भी नहीं. इसका इसमें कुछ भी नहीं है. For him it is nothing within that. इसके अलावा सदक़ात के फ़ज़ाइल कसरत से गुजर ही चुके हैं. Aside from this, the fadail and the virtues of giving sadaqah and charity has been passed before. ये 10 फ़वाइद कम खाने के निहायत इख्तिसास से जिक्र किए गए. As the Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi says that these 10 benefits, Imam Ghazali Rahmatullah Alayhi goes into a lot of detail in his book. He says that with great brevity we've mentioned these 10 benefits here. इनमें से हर एक फ़ायदा अपने अंदर बेशुमार फ़ायदे रखते हैं. And he also says that each of the benefits of eating less has multiple benefits within each one. ये बात काबिल लिहाज है, and a person should also pay attention. और जो पहले भी मुतअद्दिद बार लिखी जा चुकी है, which I've mentioned before, कि इन फ़ज़ाइल के हक़ होने में तरद्दुद नहीं. There is no doubt in the correctness of these फ़ज़ाइल and virtues. यकीनन ये वो कमालात है कि जिस खुश नसीब को हक़ ताला अपने लुत्फ़ से अता फरमा. These are perfections, perfect actions that whoever Allah Almighty through His kindness gives him the tawfiq to act upon them, इसके लिए दीन और दुनिया दोनों की राहत है. For him is benefit and comfort in deen and dunya. और आखिरत के लिए बेशुमार दराजात, and in the hereafter numerous high rankings he'll achieve. और तरक्यात का ज़ेना है, and the rungs, like or steps for him to progress further. लेकिन अपने तहम्मुल की रियायत ज़रूरी है. But at the same time, this is the important bit. The Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi says, लेकिन अपने तहम्मुल की रियायत ज़रूरी है. It's necessary for a person to be able to tolerate and bardasht of these difficulties. ऐसा न हो, it shouldn't be such कि कौवा चला था हंस की चाल वो अपनी भी भूल गया. So he mentions a कहावत, कौवा यानी the crow चला था, walked हंस की चाल like a swan. So a swan is very elegant and he walks very elegantly. He glides across the river, you know. It's a protected bird. And that the crow is looked down upon a little bit. So the kawwa tried to walk the walk of a swan. वो अपनी भी भूल गया. But then at the same time he forgot about himself. That then he's not a swan, but he's actually a crow. So what he's saying is that a person, you know, he might listen to all these fadail and all of a sudden starts acting upon them. And when he acts upon them, then like the crow who's trying to walk like the swan, he forgets himself that he's not in that capacity. You know, it's like you go into a gym, and if you say, I want to do a bench press of 150 kilogram, and the guy's never been to a gym, or he goes to a gym, but he just does light weights, and all of a sudden he gets on the bench press and he tries to pick up 150 kilogram, it's not going to happen. What he needs to do is he needs to build himself up to that. He needs to work a little bit. He needs to do a bit of cardio, and maybe he might do 10 kilograms, then 20 kilograms, increase his reps, and after 3, 4, 5, 6 months, he's got the ability to actually maybe push not even 150, maybe about 50, 60, 70 kilograms. And then later on, if he's eating properly, looking after himself and doing all the other necessary bits. So in the same way, when it comes to riyadat, the spiritual exercises, when it comes to the dhikr, when it comes to all the different type of actions that a person needs to do in tasawwuf, and all the mujahada that he needs to do, then you can't just jump in it head first, feet first. You just jump into it and you jump back out of it. It doesn't work like that. You've got to wake yourself up, build the capacity, build the ability, build yourself up. So then he says, Yada ke shok mein aadmi thode se bhi jata rahe. Then he says that a person tries to do quite a lot and then he even forgets that little bit. That's why Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says in a hadith, أحب الأعمال أدومها وإن قل, that the best of actions to Allah Almighty are those that أدومها, that are continuous, وإن قل, even though they're very little. And if he tries to do a lot, he'll even leave that completely. इसलिए इन सब चीज़ों की तरफ दिल को रग़बत देते रहने के साथ, so he says, this is very important, and we mentioned this for the last 3-4 weeks, we're mentioning it right at the end, not in these words but separately, कि इन सब चीज़ों की तरफ दिल को रग़बत देते रहने के साथ, that whilst also having a hope and desire to eat less, इन चीज़ों के और इस तरह से ज़िंदगी के अंदर पैदा करने की कोशिश के साथ, a person tries as well, he tries hard, and he has love for this, और उन अमूर को निहायत वक़्त से देखने के साथ, and at the same time he considers this to be the objective and something that's superior and something great and something that he needs to aspire towards, right? देखने के साथ अमल इतना ही, but at the same time अमल इतना ही करना चाहिए. He should only do that much action जितना अपने अंदर तहम्मुल हो, as much he is able to tolerate himself physically. बीमार आदमी ताकत से ज़्यादा बोझ उठाएगा तो जल्दी मरेगा. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi says that if a person who's ill, ताकत से ज़्यादा, if beyond the capacity of his strength he tries to carry a burden or a weight, like a person going to the gym, तो जल्दी मरेगा, then he'll die very quickly. The bar might fall on him, he might crush his chest or whatever. हम लोग नफ्स की बीमारियों की बीमार है. He says, then Hazrat Shaykh says that we are ill, spiritually ill with the illnesses of the nafs, the carnal self. आधा और कुआ के ज़ौफ़ के मारे हुए है. Our limbs etc. are very weak. इसलिए सेहत की तमन्ना और कोशिश सही और रग़बत के साथ ऐसी कोई चीज़ अमली तौर से इख्तियार न करना चाहिए. Is a person shouldn't try these things themselves, जो इस हालत से भी गिरा दे जिस पर अब मौजूद है. And because if he was to try too hard, then he would fail. And there's one paragraph which is connected, it's getting a bit long, but I'll just go over it because it's connected to the previous paragraph, and then inshallah I'll end there. He then says, Imam Ghazali Rahmatullah says कि कम खाने की आदत आहिस्ता आहिस्ता पैदा करना चाहिए. He said the person should make his habit to eat less, slowly, bit by bit, one block after another. जो शख्स ज़्यादा खाने का आदी हो, the person who's habituated to eat a lot, वो दफ़अतन कम करेगा. If he was to just stop eating so much straight away, तो उसका तहम्मुल भी ना होगा. He won't be able to tolerate this. ज़ौफ़ भी हो जाएगा, he'll become weak. मशक्क़त भी बढ़ जाएगा. It becomes difficult for him. We see it in Ramadan, first week, everyone starts losing their rag, or they go off the top. Why? Because they're hungry, yeah, or they're hungry, as they say. मशक्क़त भी बढ़ जाएगी. इसलिए बहुत आहिस्तगी. Because of this, a person should take small baby steps. और सहूलत के साथ उसको इख्तियार करना चाहिए. He should adopt this way in a very easy fashion. मसलन अगर कोई शख्स 2 नान खाता हो, if a person eats 2 naans or 2 rotis or 2 chapatis, तो उसको 1 नान का 28वां हिस्सा रोज़ाना कम करना चाहिए. Then he should decrease 28th part of divide his roti into 28 parts, and he should decrease it by 1/28 every day. इससे 1 महीने के अंदर आधी खुराक रह जाएगी. He says by doing this, within a month, he'll have decreased the amount he consumes from 2 naans to 1 naan. It's quite interesting. So he's divided the roti into 30 days or 29 days, 28 days. Yeah, we could divide it into 30 or 31 days, and you instead of eating 30 qadiyas, you eat 29 qadiyas. The next day 28 qadiyas, and then the next day later, and over time you'll have decreased it to 1 naan, which is quite clever. इससे 1 महीने के अंदर आधी खुराक रह जाएगी और उसका भी तहम्मुल दुश्वार हो तो 40वां हिस्सा कम करना चाहिए. And if this is a bit difficult, then maybe you could decrease it according to 40 days. So the amount you eat is over 40 days. This is realistically all of this. Tasawwuf and spirituality is very similar to joining a karate club. or going to the gym. Yeah, you've got to do small amounts every day under the guide of a personal trainer. Yeah, it's very similar, and he builds your capacity bit by bit. And it's not just about going to the gym, pushing weights, but at the same time, you've got to watch what you eat. So in the same way, it's not just going to the khanqa and sitting in the khanqa and spinning the tasbih, but it's about doing the other things outside the khanqa. Yeah, and when you look at Tabligh Jamaat, same thing. You know, they send you in Jamaat 4 months, 40 days, 3 days, but then they say the backbone of the work is the local work. Yeah, and the amal of home is more difficult than the amal within the time we spent in Jamaat. So all of these are usul of life. With a lot of other things. I mean, even when you go for education, if you just went to school, came back, and you know that's it, it's easy. You get your GCSE. It's not going to work like that. You've got to put a bit of effort and time and energy into it, and small steps, not doing everything in one go. But inshallah, Allah give us all tawfiq. Beautiful words in Fazail Sadaqat. We don't really value it. We don't understand the value of Fazail Sadaqat. May Allah Almighty give us the tawfiq to understand it properly, and give us the tawfiq to act upon what's been said, and make sure that these words are not just words that are on our tongues, but words that are in our heart, and give us a tawfiq to do amal. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, shadu la ilaha illa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. We zikr majlis for a few minutes, and then after that, chutti. Only for about 5 minutes, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. So very short, the zikr that we do here, unless you have ijazah from your sheikh, you can do your own zikr. The zikr we do here is zikr targhibi, to give targhib and raghbat, and encourage people to do zikr. Ijtima'i, in one voice. First of all, we do a bit of la ilaha illallah and Allah Allah. Everyone here has ijazah just for this majlis. If you don't want to participate, you can pray durood sharif istighfar. And if you want to fulfill the zikr and azkar of your mashayikh, you have ijazah for this as well. So first of all, you read Qul Huwallahu Ahad a few times, and then we'll begin, inshallah. Very short, because I'm not too well today. Bismillah ar-Rahman. La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Illallah, 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 ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah, 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 Allah.